Hey guys, here we are again. Thanks for joining me. Getting a few people in. Good stuff. Okay, so this live is going to be about Dylan Rounds and the new interview. That's actually a couple of days old now, but I'm so far behind in my coverage of everything and that I'm kind of running like 2 days behind. So yeah, it's a couple of days old. I think a few channels have commented on it, but I wanted to give my two penneth on the new interview that Dylan Rounds' parents, Justin Rounds and Candace Cooley, gave with East Idaho News. So that's where we're gonna end up. But first, there's some news about the Olivia Pratt-Korbel case. If you've no idea who this is, it's a little girl I talked about in my live last night, and I made a video on this morning. And then there was an update later on in the morning that the man you see on screen was arrested. So what happened was Olivia and her mother, around 10 p.m. on Monday evening, in a suburb called Dovecot in Liverpool, England. It's only 28 miles away from me, so this is almost on my doorstep. They were getting ready for bed about 10 p.m. and they heard a ruckus outside. And they thought they heard gunshots. So Olivia's mother, Cheryl, made the mistake of opening the door to have a look what was going on. And this low-life scumbag that you see on your screen, he was a 35-year-old man who's now been named as Joseph Nee. He was being chased by a gunman who was dressed in all black with a balaclava hat on. This low-life scumbag, Joseph Nee, ran in, saw the light on at Olivia's house and ran in. The gunman chased him and opened fire. And this guy, Joseph Nee, was shot. He was the intended target. Olivia's mum, Cheryl, was also shot. And 9-year-old Olivia was shot in the chest and she lay dying. Police rushed her to Alder Hospital, which is one of the NHS's finest hospitals for children here in the UK, but they couldn't save her and she died in hospital. This low-life scumbag, Joseph Nee, got a friend to pick him up before the police arrived, left Olivia dying, and he got a friend to drive him to hospital. So Liverpool is watching you, Joseph Nee. In fact, the world is watching you, Joseph Nee. And I just hope that Liverpool Football Club, which is one of the biggest football clubs in the world, publicises this. I think they will. And there's also a small club called Everton as well. Because Liverpool does not like people who hurt children. And this man knows. This man earlier today, Joseph Nee, the low-life scumbag, was arrested. And he's now in custody. So you better start talking. I'm a good believer in, your right to say no comment in police interviews. But in this instance, Joseph Nee, you low-life scumbag, you coward, you better start talking because Liverpool is watching. And let's just quickly go through this BBC article, shall we? Let's do that. just quickly, and then we'll get on to Dylan Rounds, because I know I advertised this as a Dylan Round stream, and indeed it is. It's just this was breaking news, like less than an hour after less than an hour ago. The man was named by BBC News. So he's a drug dealer. Joseph Nee is a drug dealer. A man who was targeted by a gunman in a shooting that left Olivia Pratt-Korbel dead has been arrested and will be questioned about her murder. He'll be interrogated to within an inch of his life because Merseyside police are not messing about. The 9-year-old was shot as her mother struggled with two men, one armed with a gun, at the door of her Liverpool home on Monday night. The intended victim of the shooting has been named as 35-year-old Joseph Nee. Nee, who was also shot, was a convicted drug dealer, jailed for 3 years and 9 months in 2018 for burglary. Merseyside police has not publicly identified Nee. It's not Merseyside police that have given his name. It's that people know him. People are talking. Liverpool is not going to sit down and let that great city be run by gangs. So he's been named, and his name is now all over the internet. So share my post on Twitter, share my post in my Facebook group to everybody you can, and share this stream to everybody you can to let the entire world know that Joseph Nee needs to start talking. So he was previously convicted of 2 counts of theft of a motor vehicle, dangerous driving, driving without insurance, and driving while disqualified. Earlier, the force said that the 35-year-old man injured in the shooting would be recalled to prison for allegedly breaching the terms of his license conditions with poor behaviour. Police said the man was in a stable condition, so I hope he lives, and has been detained in hospital and will be further questioned in connection with Olivia's death. The fact that he's in hospital will not stop Merseyside police. They'll be there. They'll be waiting. They'll be waiting. The force said officers have been given the same name by 2 different sources in the hunt for the gunman. Both men have no links to Olivia's family. This is a completely innocent girl. This is Olivia. What a sweet, beautiful, innocent girl. No connection. Her family has no connection to the drug world. No connection to the gangs that think they run Liverpool. But Liverpool is watching, and Liverpool will get justice. Because one thing Liverpool is good at, the great city that it is, was 28 miles away from me. It's good at solidarity. It's good at pulling together in times of crisis. And if anybody hurts a kid, you better believe Liverpool will be watching and will get justice. One way or another, Liverpool will get justice. So Joseph Nee, better start talking, son. Currently in hospital, but in stable condition. And he will be interrogated too within an inch of his life. He'll be interrogated till his ears bleed. So that's the update. I'm going to continue on this story. Hopefully, as Joseph Nee, the coward, has been named by independent sources who've told the police, who've told BBC News. Liverpool is talking. They're not going to lie down and let these idle gangs run their lives. So it's only a matter of time before the gunman is also named. Even if Joseph Nee is too much of a coward, Liverpool will find him and Liverpool will nail him. So, guys, that's all I've got to say on that. It's hit home because it's so close to my home. She's 9 years old. She's lost her life at 9 years old. I've got a granddaughter who's 8. So this is very, very close to home for me. So she's adorable. Exactly, Pat. Absolutely adorable. Rival gangs. Yeah, probably. It'll be to do with drugs. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Someone will talk. Yeah. Yeah. You see, he's nowhere to hide. He's nowhere to hide. This gunman has nowhere to hide because Liverpool is watching, because even the gang members have some level of honour. You don't touch kids. And this beautiful little girl has paid the ultimate price for senseless gang violence. So when he is caught, I might even go to the trial eventually. Might not even get in, because hopefully this will become very high profile. You know, Liverpool, one of the greatest cities in the world, and they won't take this lying down. So hopefully this will become very high profile. And when justice is done, when there's a trial, you never know, I might go. But we'll see. We'll see. Okay, so let's say a few hellos before we get on to Dylan Rounds. Only Grands, hello, hello. Hello, Diane. Lisa. An eye-opening interview. Dylan Rounds, yeah. We'll get Dylan Rounds on the screen so that we know we're now talking about Dylan. Go to that one. Right. StreamYard is so clunky with sharing screen and stopping sharing screen. Yeah, I've listened to about half of the interview, so the second half I've not heard yet, so we'll be listening to it together. Hi from Surrey, says Sharpie Lisa. Oh, Lisa Lynch says, our president is making announcements on student loans, got to go. Well, you can be part of the replay crew, Lisa. Hi, Carmel. Hi, Joe, watching from London, England. Lisa Faulkner has just stopped in to say hello. Hi, Stay Tiger. Betty, Half Rutter. Yeah, it's a new interview with Candace and Justin. Hi, Rambling Rome. Hi, Electric. Nancho. Forensic Lover. Laurie. Hi, Laurie. JD. Purple AJ. Pat. We think we've said hello to Pat. Rena. Broken Doth Doll. That's a tongue twister. Broken Goth Doll. Yeah, he was the intended victim. Yeah, he was. Yeah, should have shot him. Yeah. Twiggy Kilt, Jennifer, hi. Joanne, Binky. Someone has to, that's good. Hi, Kathy. Hi, Laurie. Diana. Crystallized Ice. Shazza. Absolutely, Shazza. You'll never walk alone. You absolutely will not. You will not walk alone. Believe Angel, Mrs. Nobody, and hi to everybody. There's quite a few people coming in now. So, okay, let's get on to Dylan Rounds. Yeah, but gang members are only gang members. They're gang members for a reason, and yeah, people will talk because the world is watching. Yeah, there's a lot of gang activities. Like every city in the UK has got gangs of one kind or another. Yeah, it's a big problem. Okay. Well, yeah, I got that feeling right from the out. I got that feeling. I think what it is these are underfunded county police forces, and you know they probably, you know, some kind of old boys network, and they just want to trot along doing their own thing. They don't like outside intervention, and they're underfunded, so they probably don't have that many staff. So Yeah, there's that. Right, I'll just change my banner so we know we're talking about Candace Cooley and Justin Rounds. I've done a new interview with East Idaho News. So we're going to go through it together. I'm going to stop it at intervals. Let me know if the sound's okay. I'm going to mute out. No, actually, I don't think I need to mute out. I'll mute out anyway. I'm wearing earbuds, so I might not need to mute out. I don't know how this, it confuses me. If I wear earbuds, do I need to mute out? We'll see, because it'll be easier if I don't mute out, because I'm going to keep stopping it. So let me know. Let me know if you can hear it okay, and let me know if I need to do things. If there's an echo, usually just going out and coming back in gets rid of it. Well, one of the things I think, these places are underfunded. They absolutely are. But I think one thing that we saw massively with Hawkins County in the Summer Wells case was they just wanted to close ranks, this little old boys club, and not accept outside help. And there's no excuse for that, because there's been loads of people, not just YouTubers wanting to go and take photographs of 110 Ben Hill Road, but genuine search organizations wanting to go and help, and they've been turned down. Like EcoSearch have not been able to go back. Adventures with Purpose were interested in the case and told that she's not in water. Well, maybe she isn't, but how do Hawkins County know that? Have they checked every single waterway in the entirety of, the area? I bet they haven't. And even if they have, look at what we've seen with Kylie Rodney. They Prosser County and Nevada County police departments have been all over Prosser Reservoir and couldn't find Kylie close to the shore. Only 55 feet out, 14 feet under, couldn't find Kylie. So accepting experts should be the first thing that any small county does. Obviously, check them out, make sure that they're a legitimate organization who actually can do the things that they say they do. You got a good point, Katie. Not underfunded, undermotivated, lazy and overweight guys who don't want to work hard. You could well have a point. You could well have a point. Yeah. They don't want to deal. They don't want to deal with this kind of thing. They really don't. It's an old boys club. And I definitely get that feeling about Box Elder County as well. I mean, we've heard a lot less from them. I mean, they've never even done a press conference, have they? I mean, have they ever done a press conference for Dylan Rounds? Not that I can recall. So, that reminds me, before we click play on this interview, tomorrow I'll be doing a stream on Jolissa Fuentes from Selma, California. Adventures with Purpose will be there tomorrow to check out some of the lakes where close to where her phone last pinged. So I'll be doing a stream on her, just kind of giving an overview of the case, kind of giving an overview of everything we know so far, the main things to note about what we know so far. And it took Selma, Fresno County, it took them 16 days to do a press conference for Jolissa. And it's only because of pressure from outside, that they've done one at all. So, yeah, I'll be covering Jolissa's case, and we'll be looking at the press conference. We'll be looking at some media that her family have done. Her family have pulled out all the stops to get her case publicised. And it's somewhat unfortunate that she disappeared, Julissa disappeared just a day after Kylie Rodney did. She was last seen on August the 7th, whereas the party that Kylie Rodney attended was August the 5th into August the 6th. So, you know, Kylie's case has just taken off and Julissa's case has been running along. And I've been following kind of little bits and pieces, but I've just not had the brain space to really deep dive on it because of everything that's been going on with Kylie. You know, I'm only one person. You know, I work alone. I don't have a research team. So I've got to kind of pick and choose the, you know, where my brain space goes. You know, I have a limited time, and YouTube, believe it or not, isn't my only life that I have. So I've had to put Julissa's case and Dylan's case actually on the back burner. So tomorrow it'll be earlier. It'll be an earlier time slot than this one because I've got nothing to do tomorrow. I've got no real life things to do tomorrow. So it'll be an earlier stream. So it will be inconvenient for some of you guys in America, but you can always be part of the replay crew, can't you? And then allegedly Adventures with Purpose will be there in Selma, or just a little bit to the north of Selma, searching out the waterways tomorrow. So if she's in the water, they'll find her. You can guarantee they'll find her. So I keep saying this, but without further ado, let's get into Dylan Rounds. Now, this case has gone somewhat quiet since Jim Brenner has been arrested and is in jail. The only real kind of publicity that this case gets now is when Jim Brenner has a hearing. Chase Venstre is also in jail. Neither have been arrested in connection with Dylan. They've been brought in on other things, but you know, Jim Brenner is the named suspect, and Chase Venstre has had a lot of kind of social media interest kind of cast upon him. So the case has gone somewhat quiet. So I've put it on the back burner simply because there's been no new updates. So I'm glad that Candace and Justin are speaking out again. From what I've seen, as I said before, I've seen about half of this. So I'm going to play it now, and I'll stop it at intervals. Can you just let me know in the chat whether you can hear this or whether I need to do something remedial to make it workable?
Dylan Rounds has been missing for nearly 3 months, and today his parents still have a lot of questions, not only about the whereabouts of their son, but also what's happening with the investigation. And joining me now in the studio, Candace Cooley. She is Dylan's mom. Also Justin Rounds, Dylan's father. I think we spoke, 3 or 4 weeks ago. It's crazy how fast time has gone. First of all, how are you guys doing?
We're holding up, pushing forward. Just keep them focused.
And what has that focus turned to going into month 3?
Getting a new lead, law enforcement lead agency in Dylan's case. That's where we feel we're at.
So let's set it up. Law enforcement, the lead agency has been the Box Elder County Sheriff's Office in Utah. Dylan disappeared. If you're just tuning into the story, he was living and farming out near the Utah-Nevada border and in Box Elder County, and they began investigating when he first disappeared. And frustrations have been building on your family's behalf over the past, well, kind of since the beginning. Am I right to say that?
Yeah.
Yes.
So walk me through what some of those frustrations have been.
So when we first got out there on May 20th,
and she's going to go into the kind of the initial meeting of the Box Elder County guys and what they did when they went there on May 28th, when they realized that Dylan was missing. And Candace, right from the outset, said that Box Elder weren't doing enough. And that's why she went online and she drummed up interest in Dylan's case. somewhat controversially, you know, we had the gym guy, the PI, who did a lot of interviews, and, you know, he made Candace controversial. But it created an interest on social media. So Candace was the one that really drove this case forward. But the FBI got involved. And once the FBI got involved, then things did start to happen. Arrests were made, you know, but Box Elder is still the lead agency. So, yeah.
28th. You know, day one, everybody knows we find Dylan's boots. Justin and I go out and we look at them, and clearly they're Dylan's boots. Neither one of us had any doubt in our mind. They were thrown on the back of one of their side-by-sides, and the search just continued like nothing out of the ordinary. So as time went on, so search and rescue, they stayed the first night. They came back the next day at about 7 a.m. They searched until about 2:30, probably 3 o'clock. They were actually stationed on the property that Brenner was squatting on, and we were told we're going to move base to Lucin Pond because we're irritating Brenner. Now,
that is absolutely hilarious. I mean, hilarious is completely the wrong word. You know, knowing what we know now, just, you know, it's just completely ironic that the cops moved base because they were irritating Jim Brenner. Now, doesn't that say a lot? Knowing what we know now about Jim Brenner, about Jim Brenner's temper, that says a lot. And it should have been a red flag to the cops, in my opinion. You know, if someone's missing, someone that you know, Jim was supposedly a friend of Dylan's, worked with him. And the cops had to up sticks and move base because they were irritating Jim. Well, that's a red flag right there, because if he was a friend, he wouldn't have been annoyed by the cops using his area, using his space. And he's squatting there anyway. The land isn't even owned by Jim Brenner. So, you know, if I'd have been one of those cops, I'd have been like, you know, quietly to my mate, you know, to my co-worker, and I said, do a background on this guy here, will you? Do a background on him. Because what's his problem? That's exactly what I would have done. And that's, I think, what any self-respecting police officer would have thought. Let's check this guy out. Because he's not behaving right. His friend's missing. He's not behaving right. But we're all wise in the benefit of hindsight, as I often say, but still absolutely ridiculous. Yeah, Jackie, ridiculous. Yeah, ridiculous. Outrageous.
Part of what people need to know is Brenner had an arrest warrant at this time. Yes. Box Elder County knew this. He could have been arrested day one. I believe it would have been the 10th. It was the day I was in Elko. I believe it was June 10th. They finally arrested him on that warrant. So you have a violent criminal who we now know. So, you know, he's got an attempted murder charge. He's got all this stuff. He's got a warrant. You have a missing 19-year-old. It's all within 100 yards of each other. And you don't even think to, well, let's go ahead and execute this warrant because we can take this guy to jail right now.
James Brenner was squatting on property near.
And that says it all. Incompetence, yes. Yes, suspicious behaviour. You could well be right, Sally. You could well be right. I'm assuming that they have now, yeah. But that's only an assumption. Who knows with these guys? But I do have some faith in the FBI. And once the FBI got involved, the search did kind of, you know, heat up. But too little, too late. Because, in my opinion, not checking Jim Brenner, like that first red flag of him being annoyed and telling them to move off land that isn't even his. No, Box elder guys probably thought it was his land because they didn't bother checking. And if he says he can't go on their land, then he can't go on. They can't go on his land. But it's not his land. Number one, which they'd have found out if they'd have done a modicum of research. And he had a big background. He had a warrant out against him. She's absolutely right. They could have arrested him on that outstanding warrant right there. Suspicious behaviour, being annoyed by the police going out there looking for his missing friend, and then they don't bother doing a background on him. She's absolutely right. He could have been arrested day one, and there you go. Yeah, exactly. Get him in, find out everything he knows, but most importantly, right, Jim Brenner, presuming that Jim Brenner is the one responsible for Dylan's disappearance, let's just assume for one moment that he is, right? He's already had 2 days from early Saturday until Monday when Dylan's family realised he was missing. He's already had 2 days to clean up a crime scene or hide Dylan's body. So law enforcement, I mean, you know, no fault to anybody, no fault to Dylan's family on this, no fault to law enforcement on this, but whoever's responsible for Dylan's disappearance has had 2 days. So law enforcement are playing catch up. They are absolutely playing catch up. And he was sitting there, could have been arrested day one. Red flag city, absolutely red flag city. And they completely missed it. So the fact that Candace is speaking out on this is, yeah, she's absolutely right, in my opinion.
Near where Dylan was.
Yeah.
And has an extensive criminal history, violent crimes. And you're saying when the cops first went in there, when you guys first reported Dylan missing, they should have done something with James Brenner.
Yes. Yes.
But they waited 2 weeks?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And then even when they finally did, he was out the next day and they still never searched his property. So Dylan's boots are found. The next day, Lucien Pond, they move out because they don't want to, you know, annoy Brenner. They did not just move base. They just pulled out. They were done. I mean, 4 or 5 guys stuck around. That really helped.
A few of those guys came out a
yeah,
lot. And
yeah,
did
there
a
was
really good job.
There was some
with the
that
search and
were
rescue.
great. So that was the day, Tuesday, that we got the phone call that Dylan was being held hostage in Montello. And so we all took off. Part of the Box Elder County Sheriffs and a few of the search and rescue guys were standing at the pond. We stopped to give them a flashlight battery back that they'd loaned us the night before, told them what was going on, and I was told good luck with that.
Looking for royalty-free music? Discover Epidemic Center. Get the safest.
Who told you that?
One of the sheriffs. I don't know which one it was, but those were the exact words I got. Was good luck with that.
When you mentioned that your son was being held hostage,
yes,
the deputy said, good luck with that.
And then Justin had to call him, and I'll let you tell.
What? So a sheriff's deputy, when hearing that they'd been told that Dylan was being held hostage, said, good luck with that. Oh, dear me. Dear me. I mean, I know that, you know, these small towns, you know, that only have a handful of people in. And there's, you know, we've heard stories of, you know, a handful of guys that police the desert. And law enforcement either don't want to get involved or don't want to be bothered because they don't want to live on, you know, they want to sit on their fat asses, take the paycheck and not do much work. Exactly, Julie. Exactly. Yeah, yeah. What? Yeah. It's. I've not skipped any of it. I'm playing it all, Linda. Maybe the good part hasn't come up yet. I'm played it from the beginning. So we're only 4 minutes in at the moment. So let's carry on.
You tell them about your conversation with Blower.
Well, I just called and told him I was going to do something if they didn't show up, and had him give me his word that he would get a hold of Elko to get them to come. And then they said they'd come, and we waited. I gave them a little bit of time before I went into the house myself, and they ended up showing up. And
The house where you were told
where
Dylan
we
was.
thought Dylan
Yeah.
was.
So you called Box Elder and said, you better get out here or I'm going to do something myself.
Right.
Yeah.
Make sure Elko comes.
Well, Box Elder did not ever end up coming, nor did they end up calling Elko. I called 911 and we got Elko out there. When Elko came out, they came out with 6 deputies and they waited till they all got there because they weren't aware of the current situation. So I make a 911 call and say, you know, our son, we found him. They have no clue who or what we are talking about because Box Elder never called.
So Dylan obviously wasn't in that
No.
house.
No.
So that was.
So Dylan wasn't there, right? This was a story kind of cooked up by whoever. Was it Kurt? I think it was Kurt, wasn't it? If I remember rightly, who said that Dylan was being held hostage. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was Kurt. Wasn't he believing what psychics were saying or something? Maybe that's a rumor. I'm not sure. But the problem is with these cases, and it's the same here in the UK. There's a similar problem here in the UK. That when a case goes over 2 counties. Yeah, Kurt Wadsworth. Thank you, Jackie. Yeah, it was. It was Kurt who said that Dylan was being held hostage. And he wasn't, but he said that. For whatever reason, he said that. That when a case goes over 2 counties, then you are relying on both of those county police teams to talk to each other. So Dylan's trailer and the farm are in Box Elder County, but Montello, where Dylan hangs out, and you know his friends are there, is in Elko County. And not only is it across county lines, it's across state lines as well. Because Lucin is in Utah, and then Montello is on the other side of the state line in Nevada. So you've got a problem of, you know, you're relying on the counties talking to each other and passing information over state lines. Now, in the UK, it's the same. I live in a county called Lancashire, but I'm very, very close to the Greater Manchester border. So I can go out of my house, walk a mile, and have 1 foot in Lancashire and 1 foot in Greater Manchester. I'm also close to the Merseyside border. Now, based on, you know, past experience and, you know, problems of this kind, Lancashire Constabulary, Greater Manchester Police and Merseyside Police now have a very good relationship and they all work together. You know, and that's the way to do policing. But it in these small towns where the county kind of limits are big, you know, they cover a big area, but there's not many people, they can get away with not doing their job. You know, in a way that my county police force just can't get away with it. You know, so I just feel so badly for Dylan's parents, and you know they've done Dylan proud, but the police, the county police officers there may have been some good ones, as Justin said, like the search and rescue guys were great. They came out, they did their work, but I think it's more to do with the guys that sit behind the desks rather than the guys that are willing and able to go out and search. The search and rescue people do their job. but it's the people who sit, the fat cats who sit behind the desks, that is the problem here. In my opinion, obviously.
That was one frustration, and then there's been a few more.
Yeah. So moving forward, so now that Box Elder released it on NamUs, we all know, yes, the key fob did come back.
So let's talk about that. There was a key fob that originally was not in Dylan's truck when you guys searched it.
Yes.
Correct. It wasn't anywhere. We
Wasn't
couldn't get
anywhere.
it in his pickup.
This was the key fob to his truck to get it
Correct.
started. So then it appeared.
Right. In his camp trailer.
How do you know the time frame?
When we were in Montello at the supposed Dylan's kidnapping.
So this is information that the family, you all have known since the beginning.
Correct.
But law enforcement have asked you to hold it back.
Yes.
And this is common in a lot of cases where the family, the police know more than the public because they don't want to tip off whoever might be involved, what you all know. So you've been holding that secret as they've asked you to, but then suddenly a report comes out last week or the week before.
It actually came out July 28th.
Oh, so it's been out for nearly a month now.
It's been out for nearly a month before I knew what was, the 12th is when I emailed Box Elder and said, what the heck is going on?
And this was a report to a law enforcement agency?
So it was on NamUs. So on NamUs, there's two ways you can do it. You can log in as me and Justin could have a login and report a kid missing, and it has to be approved. Law enforcement can log in and it can be made to where only other law enforcement agencies can view it. The detective that did it just put it out publicly.
So anyone that had a login to this web, or anyone period,
You don't even need a login.
could see on this report that about the key fob.
Correct.
The key fob was not there and then it appeared,
Yeah.
which was part of the investigation, but now it was public.
Okay, exactly. So this is our other frustration. So this happens on day number 3, Wednesday. Still, they don't treat anything suspicious. They don't start thinking, okay, something's not right. Like somebody's bringing this kid's stuff back now and he's missing. No, nothing. They just continued on their merry way.
Did you all?
So, while they're out investigating, because the police ain't going to do it, investigating the possibility that Dylan is being held hostage, called in by Kurt Wadsworth. So takes the investigation to Montello. Way back in Lucin, like 26, 27 miles over the state line in Utah, Dylan's key fob magically appears in his trailer. It wasn't there, and then it was. And law enforcement are not interested in that. Like, why? Is it because they didn't bother checking his trailer? So they didn't believe Candace when she said, look, this was not here. And now it is. Because if the police had checked Dylan's trailer and, done the photographs and all of the stuff, they would have known that Dylan's key fob was not there. And then it was. Oh, my word. I mean, I don't know what's worse. I don't know what's more shocking. The fact that Dylan's key fob reappears magically. It moves telepathically into Dylan's trailer. Or the police aren't interested in that information. I mean, exactly. I mean, they are holding it together. They are holding it together, and they're doing the work for their son, right? They're the ones who are out there beating the ground, beating doors down to get justice for Dylan. And the police, I mean, look, that's where my mind went when I heard this, that Kurt rang them to take them away from the from the trailer from Lucen to give whoever the opportunity to put his belongings back, his key fob back, and who else? We don't know what else was put back that the parents may not have even known about, The key fob was just the obvious thing because they needed it to get in his pickup. They had to break a window to get in his pickup, so they knew that was missing. Right, so, oh my word. Oh my word. I mean, I always, like, if you go back in my Dylan Rounds playlist over on Michelle After Dark, like I've covered this case since day one. I've got a couple of videos on this channel that I did early doors, and then I've got like my whole playlist over on Michelle After Dark. But I was looking at Wadsworth. I was looking at Kurt and his brother very, very closely. But then the tide turned. Kurt came out to speak, and then Jim was named a suspect. Jim was arrested. Chase had been arrested early doors, so he was out of the picture. I would not be surprised if there wasn't a group of people who know exactly what happened to Dylan Rounds. I would not be surprised if there is a whole group of people who knows who's keeping it quiet. Or it could be that it was a coincidence that Kurt rang. So Kurt's got nothing to do with it. But the person responsible took the chance while they were out. Like the person who was responsible may not have known why they'd moved out, and gone looking elsewhere. They might not have even been aware that Kurt had rang them, but may have just taken the chance on that day to put that key fob back. So it does make Kurt's little fanciful story look very suspicious, but it could simply be that whoever's responsible took that chance to put that key fob back while they knew that the parents weren't there. But I think there's more than one person involved. I do. I really do. So yeah, I do.
All think something was
Yes.
I thought something was wrong since the day we saw the boots, the minute we saw the boots.
wrong. Not that Dylan just ran away.
No.
Somebody else.
He
was
never
involved.
ran away. I knew that from the very beginning, before we even found the boots. I knew he wouldn't have just taken off.
And then when the key fob appears, you're saying
Yeah.
something isn't
Yeah.
right.
And so at this point, we're starting to get a little bit of information from the detectives. Not really much of anything, but they would separate us. So they would tell him something, and then they'd pull me aside and say, okay, now I'm going to tell you. They would not do it together, which we could not figure out because then we were so frantic and exhausted and emotionally exhausted. Then we would get talking and we would think we were confusing stuff because they wouldn't talk to us together.
Do you think they thought you were suspects?
It's a possibility. I'm sure everybody's suspect, you know what I mean?
But no interviews were conducted. Justin and I have never been interviewed.
This was just to pull you aside.
This
to
is
talk.
just to pull
This
you
wasn't
aside.
a formal interview.
No, we've
No,
never
it
been
wasn't
given a
that.
formal interview. No, Don wasn't who's on the property. Brenner wasn't. None of the neighbors, nobody was formally interviewed.
And you would.
Whoa. So they did nothing. So it's perfectly, it's standard, right, for parents of a missing person to be considered, to be looked at, to be side-eyed, to be interviewed, or at least their whereabouts checked out. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to go in for a formal interview, but their whereabouts checked out. So if it was clear that they were in a different state, they were in Idaho when Dylan went missing, and that could be quickly proved, right? So no, they didn't need formal interviews. So there's no reason why the box elder or whoever else was involved in this needed to keep members of the family separate. Like if they suspect them, then yeah, talk to them separate and look for the inconsistencies. And then if there's enough inconsistencies, you know, you kind of think, look, we need to get this down on record, and then you bring them in for a formal interview. Absolutely. That's standard practice. But it would be so easy to work out, and I hope that the police did this. Very easy to check out their whereabouts over that weekend when Dylan disappeared. Very easy, right? So that's fair enough. But the fact that they didn't interview people on the property, they didn't interview Jim, the one who was so annoyed at the police being there. They didn't seem to notice that red flag. Don, another person who does some work for Dylan, also on the property, or the neighbouring property. Didn't bother interviewing him. Didn't interview anybody. So what have they done? What have they done to look for this boy? Well, young man. What have they done? What have they done? Nothing. Search and rescue's been out there, done what they can. Number of teams have been out there doing what they can, like independent investigators doing what they can, drone operators, etc., etc., etc. All done some good work. And then we have the FBI who have, you know, actually come in and done some work on this. But the fact that initial interviews weren't done, it just goes from bad to worse. This is the Keystone Cops. This reminds me of Deputy Dog. Back in the 70s when I was young, there was a cartoon here in the UK called Deputy Dog, and it was like this cartoon dog that did police work. Right? It's like, it's farcical. Unbelievable. Yeah. You interview the people who know Dylan the most, and especially you look at the people who were last there, who last saw him. So that wouldn't be his parents. That would be people like Jim Brenner, people like Don, and then work out. You remember Deputy Dog? So did I. I did as well. Anyway, let's carry on.
You would be open to doing a formal interview.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I was open for anything.
Yeah. So that's when I was told. So then the one detective took me for a ride out to Dylan's camper in the SUV. And I was told, did you know it was blood on the boots and it is your son's?
What?
And I said, no. The boots were not even at the lab. He lied to me.
What? So they were told that was Dylan's blood when the boots had not even gone to the lab yet. Oh my God. This is insane.
To me, those boots did not go to the lab until June 6th. They stayed in the SUV. I was told that by Detective Blauer. Those exact words. That was after he had talked to Justin, and then he took me for a drive. This is what we've been dealing with. This is why our first frustration started mounting when we started screaming, and that's when they brought in the FBI offered assistance, or they asked. I don't know how it happened. So then as this continues, Weber County came out that Friday, which was great. They did an amazing search and rescue team. And then it was that next day, I asked one of the Box Elder sheriffs, I said, when do we call for a public search? We got all these people we're holding back that want to come help find Dylan? And he said, now would be a good time. So then that Saturday we held the search. We probably had 300 people. No help. No deputy assigned to us. The only deputy that was out there told me our son's case would resume on a Zoom meeting at 11 o'clock Monday, and I lost it on him. And so he ended up leaving. No help organizing, no help trying to keep people safe, no help on this is how you search, nothing. Nothing.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, I had a friend of mine put a
Unbelievable.
post on, he put a post on Facebook just asking people, if you're going out this weekend to ride your side-by-sides or whatever, just come up this way. And we didn't even know where to send people, what to do. And
You have no clue what we're doing.
we had a lot of people came, and it was really awesome that people would come and do that. And we covered a lot of ground, but we were just blind, the blind leading the blind. It
Yeah.
was,
You have experience
When-
organizing these huge
No.
searches.
oh, we had no idea.
No.
So you have
So, look, the problem that we know with the public, we've known this for year upon year upon year upon year, that lots of people going out in a disorganized fashion, they don't know what they're looking for. They could walk past key evidence and it not be logged. And then nobody bothers going to that area again because, oh, such and such searched there. But because such and such didn't know what they were looking for, they've missed it. They can trample over potential evidence. The fact that they didn't have officials there, yeah, like I'm all for the public getting involved. I'm all for all hands to the deck, boots on the ground. I'm all for that. But it has to be done in an organized fashion, and it has to be led by people who know how to do search and rescue. People who going out doing these searches need to be briefed. They need to be given an area to search. It needs to be logged, and it needs to be done more than once. Where you've got public out searching, the chance that someone might miss something is higher than if a professional went out. So you need to do those areas more than once. Now, this is the middle of the desert, right? So the other problem is people's safety. This is the middle of the desert. You have to have people there trained in search and rescue to ensure the safety of the searchers. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
written, is it a letter?
Yeah, so it's a letter demanding and the reasons why, and then the timeline, and I sent you a copy of that, and that's I finally had to stop because I could just keep going. There is so many places they dropped the ball on Dylan's case. I mean, they didn't even call it criminal until the 15th of June, and they had no more evidence than we had on day 3. They had the same amount of everything.
It was so frustrating at the beginning, and then I just kind of told myself I just got to have faith that they're doing what they're doing, and I've just kind of been hoping and praying that they were doing what they were supposed to be doing, and I've kind of been dragging my feet on doing what she's wanting to do, but we haven't talked to them at all. I don't know anything that's going on. I don't know.
Yeah, how often does the sheriff?
I mean, Justin kind of sits there with his arms folded, and I'm trying not to look at that because he could be just defensive, he could be uncomfortable. You know, a lot of comments were made about that in the first interview that they did together with East Idaho News, and I don't set an awful lot of store in the fact that someone's got their arms folded. It might just be how he sits, it might be his position, I don't know. But it seems to me that he's took more of a back seat because he's believed that what law enforcement are doing behind the scenes is the right thing. That he might not be able to see them out there, but he's had faith that they have actually been doing things behind the scenes. But I really don't think that I don't think they have. I think it was only when the FBI got involved that this case started to move. If this had been left to Box Elder County or Elko County, nothing would have happened. That's my opinion. And the fact that Candace has been the one spearheading the campaign to get Dylan's name out there, to keep Dylan's name out there, to get his face out there, to keep his face out there, is all credit to her. But not everybody has that ability to stay cool, to stay calm, to stay emotionless. You know, she's been criticized for being emotionless. She's holding this together. This is what a mama bird does for her kid, right? And Justin, I think he's kind of more kind of upset and just hoping that the police will come good. But she's the go-getter, she's the problem solver. And that's just, some people are like that. Some people are they cope by problem solving. It's well known in psychology. I'm a problem focused coper. Some people are, some people are not. Right? And some people not, and that's fine, that's okay. But if it hadn't have been for Candace, where would this case be? Social media wouldn't have heard about it because there was no publicity. There's been no publicity by law enforcement, no press conferences, nothing. You could argue that the FBI wouldn't have even been involved because she was kicking down doors. I don't know, but not everybody can do this. Not every parent can do this because not everybody is a problem-focused coper. I don't think most people are. Most people are emotion-focused copers, and they become very emotional. They can't think straight. They're reacting to things that perhaps they don't need to react to, and they don't. They have to rely on the professionals because they can't see a day forward. They can't move a day forward. Exactly, but some people do. A lot of people do. Most people, I think, would really struggle to keep the focus that Candace had. Yeah, and it's just personality differences. That's all. It's not that it's a wrong thing that Justin probably has been too trusting, and he's passive and he's hoped. I think he's just hoped and prayed that law enforcement will come good. Whereas Candace has seen every single flaw, every single issue, and she's spoken out about it. And it's only because of her that we are where we are today with this case. So that's just my opinion.
Sheriff's office communicate with you?
Never. So they've made it to where our FBI agent is our point of contact, and he's great. Don't get me wrong. I mean, he's straight up, but he's not lead. He's basically, I feel like, especially, he's basically just been sent in to talk to us. And I mean, and he, like I said, he has done an amazing job and he is working with EquiSearch, but he's not lead. So if Box Elder can't even communicate with us as parents, that can't even give us a time of day to pick up a phone once a week, why are they even working his case? Because there's no point. This is absolutely ridiculous. We should not have to beg for everything in this case.
It's been that way since the very beginning.
And you just want, like you said, pick up the phone every week, even if there's no update, some sort of communication.
Something. And
it doesn't matter where we go and who we talk to. You hear anything new? And I mean,
yeah,
I haven't heard a thing. It's kind of frustrating. Anyway, it's very frustrating.
And your letter is calling for them to hand over the case.
Guys, I'm just going to mute out for a second because Cassie wants to go out. She's being annoying. She just wants to go for a wee. So I'm just going to mute out for a second. I'll keep this playing. So hopefully it carries on playing. If the sound goes off, then don't worry about it. I'll put it back to the place it was. I'll only be like a minute, 2 minutes tops.
Case to the state of Utah?
yes, and the FBI will assist the state of Utah.
And as far as you know, could that be possible if Box Elder decided to say,
Absolutely.
we're going to do this?
And I've left multiple messages for Blair Wardle. There's 2 attorneys, I believe, from what I've gathered from other people and other agencies I've talked to. They're the ones who have guided me into this direction. From what I understand, he's the one with the power that can say, okay, we're turning this over to the state. I've left multiple messages for his office, and I've also sent the email to their office. I sent that email a week ago today, and I have heard nothing. Radio silence, not a peep. So now you're calling them out. They know we're going to come public with this. They know, I mean, there's so much. I mean, there's hours of it to go through of what they've done to Dylan's case. Just turn it over. You had no interest in the beginning. Why are you hanging on to it?
Is there any reason in your mind why you?
Right, I'm back, guys. Could you hear that? Right, that's fine. Because I could hear it because I've got earbuds in. So we're good to go. We're good to go again. This is it's across 2 states. This is one of the issue. It's 2 states. So Dylan disappeared from Lucin, Utah, but some of the investigation is over the state line, about 25, 26 miles away in Montello. Like, that's where Dylan socialized, and Montello is in Nevada. But the actual crime and the agency whose lead on this is in Utah. It's Box Elder County, Utah. They're the lead agency. Now, what Candace is appealing for is for the FBI and the detective that is her point of contact now to become the lead on this. So, yeah, I think so. I think so. I mean, if they're not interested in it, if they can't be bothered with it, if they can't, if they don't have the funds for it, or for whatever reason, then turn it over. Why make one detective the kind of the lead person for the parents, so the person that the parents have the contact with, and not make that person the lead, not make that agency the lead. And it crosses state lines. So, there is an argument to be made for the FBI to be the lead agency, because we don't know where Dylan is. Because there's been an investigation in Lucin, Utah. Well, when we say investigation, we say that in the most loosest fashion possible, because it doesn't seem like much of an investigation's gone on at all anyway. The only people who seem to have done the investigation is the FBI, and then the search teams, who are mainly volunteers who've gone out there. They're the people who've actually done the work. So when we say, the investigation has focused on Lucin, Utah, because that's where Dylan lived, and it's where his phone last pinged, a few miles from his trailer. But it doesn't mean to say that there isn't an issue, or part of the investigation shouldn't take place in Montello, because we know that that's where the handful of people that live in Lucin, plus Dylan himself, go to socialize. That's the smallest. It's a small town, but it's the closest town, and that's in Nevada. So it crosses state lines. So there is an argument for the FBI to be lead agency. Exactly. Because we don't know where Dylan is. So even though, he may be dead, he must probably be dead. Right? After all this time, there is a small chance he's not. There's a small chance he's being held somewhere. But the chances of him being alive are slim. But still, Dylan needs to be brought home to his family, and the person or persons responsible need to be brought to justice. So why not make the detective that they speak to, that they get on with, why not make his agency the lead? It doesn't make sense.
You think they might not be communicating with you?
Never get a copyright claim again by using Epidemic Sound. Discover more than 35,000.
Why they might be holding all these things close to the vest?
I have no clue. I don't buy it's because they have all this stuff that they don't want to tell us, because they could tell us, hey, we got a lot, we're building on this, and we just can't tell you. That is an easy communication. I don't believe they even have that. And so it's almost like they're scared to communicate with us because everything went so wrong in the beginning on how they handled it. They probably lost a lot of what we could have had right there in the very beginning.
They did, no doubt.
I mean, you had hundreds and hundreds, I mean, of people all over that place before anything was ever processed, before anything was ever looked at, letting us take Dylan's pickup home. I still have the text message on my phone from the detective who I asked, can we take his pickup phone? And I was told, you folks do what you need to do, okay. And those are the exact words on my phone.
And that was mistake 101. That even if Dylan's pickup has got nothing to do with this situation, if Dylan's pickup had been sat there near his trailer all along and has got nothing to do with what happened, the fact that it wasn't processed and they were just allowed to break the window to get in and to take it home, no, that vehicle should have been processed before the parents were allowed to touch it, in my opinion. So, well, I don't know, but he's in jail now. So, if he has, then I don't know. I don't know. Okay.
Letting the grain truck go. That was
I didn't even know the grain truck had left.
Yeah, that was the first.
What do you mean letting the grain truck grow?
They never.
What happened?
They never processed it. They let us take it home.
Bonneville County processed
Yeah.
it. In fact, we used it for harvest, and it's still got all the stickers of the measurements. And
Yeah, but nothing was
stuff on
processed there on the scene. Nothing.
Did an
Insane.
ISP also
Insane.
process the truck?
The pickup.
Yeah, ISP in Bonneville County
Yeah.
came and did a lot. They did a lot that I don't know that they had to do, but they wish
Willing to
Box
help.
Elder would
Yes.
learn a little bit from them.
Do you know, did anything come back on the truck or the grain truck that you can say?
Not that. I mean, no, nothing came back. It's not anything that we can't say. Just nothing came back.
Nothing
But
came back.
once again, it was so long before it was processed.
And that maybe they haven't told us. The pickup's still gone.
Mm. So your one wish, your one hope now is get this to another agency.
Yes.
I mean, it doesn't matter if the grain truck had nothing on it. It doesn't matter if the pickup comes back with nothing on it. The fact is that these things should have been processed before anybody else should have touched them. You know, whoever's responsible has had 2 days to get rid of Dylan or do whatever happened to Dylan. The person or persons responsible had 2 days anyway. And the grain truck may not have anything to do with this. The pickup truck might not have anything to do with this. But the fact is, those investigations, it's investigation 101. It really is, honestly. Especially as his key fob was missing originally. That's a red flag right there, that his key fob was missing. And then a few days later, the key fob magically appears. And still, the cops don't think that that's strange. Ha. Wow.
That will communicate with you and will maybe get fresh eyes on the case.
Yeah, maybe a little more competent than
Yeah.
the way I
Well,
feel Box Elder is.
and just another example is that search warrant that Elko executed last Monday. I talked to Lieutenant Fisher. I knew that warrant was signed. It was at exactly 7:22 last Friday at night. Box Elder had sent over a warrant to get that property searched, and we'd been screaming about that property for a month and a half. Elko wouldn't execute Box Elders because it had no probable cause. It was a joke. And they would not go on that property and search without the proper warrants. So Elko worked on it, got their own warrant. So on Monday, it was an Elko warrant that they executed. It had nothing to do with Box Elder because Box Elder counties was a joke. And we were never told that they were declined a search warrant. We were never told any of this by Box Elder. They didn't say, hey, we're getting a search warrant to get to Elko to search this property. We had no clue.
I didn't even know they were searching it until I just got a bunch of messages from people, and I looked on Facebook and saw that video. Other than
So if anybody's kind of behind in this case, what they're talking about here is that it came out, it's a few days ago, it came out on social media, that there was a lot of law enforcement activity went to Jim Brenner's property. So this isn't the trailer that he was squatting on. This is his property, which is in Elko County. So he has property. So it took them all that time to go and search Jim Brenner's property. Now, this might be a rumor, but it was on social media that law enforcement didn't even know that Jim Brenner had property, like until way into the case. So, unbelievable. Dylan's trailer. So when the parents went on the 28th of May and Dylan's pickup truck was there, the key fob wasn't there for the pickup. So they searched his trailer to try and find the key fob, and the key fob was missing. Then a few days later, the parents get a phone call that Dylan is being held hostage at an address in Montello. They head over to Montello, and while they're away, by the time they get back, the key fob has appeared in Dylan's trailer. And the police officers who were told this don't seem to think that's an issue. See, the fact is, because law enforcement had not processed the scene, they didn't know. They didn't know that Dylan's key fob was missing, other than what the parents told them, because they had no interest. They let the parents break the window right there on the 28th of May, right there on scene. They asked if they could get in that pickup. And they said, yeah, just go in, it's yours. You can go in it, you can break the window to get in, that's fine. And they did. They didn't realize all of this. Right? They've never been in part of a missing persons case before. They didn't know any of this. They do now, but they didn't then. So they broke the window to get in because there was no key fob. But because law enforcement didn't process the pickup, they didn't process Dylan's trailer. You know, they didn't even take photographs of these things. So they didn't know. They couldn't prove that Dylan's key fob wasn't there and then it was. They've only got the parents' word for it. So days down the line, the fact that Dylan's key fob appears, law enforcement are not interested in. So yeah, terrible. Absolutely terrible. So there's not two trailers. Dylan had a trailer, and then Jim Brenner had a trailer, which was close to the grain shed that Dylan used to store his grain truck. And that grain shed was 5 miles away from Dylan's trailer. So when Dylan went to go and put his grain truck in when it rained to protect his grain, the grain that he'd been planting grain like all night and still had some planting left, and then it was going to rain. So he had to drive the grain truck 5 miles to the grain shed. Now, the grain shed is on someone else's property. And Jim Brenner lives on that property. Jim Brenner lives near the grain shed. But that's not Jim Brenner's property. So Jim lives in a trailer close to the grain shed. And then Dylan's trailer is on his farm, which is 5 miles away. So it's a little bit of a head scratcher, but that's just how it is. That's just how it's kind of, you know, the lay of the land, so to speak. But none of that. Grain shed, grain truck, pickup, Dylan's trailer, none of that processed initially. And then Jim Brenner, who didn't like the fact, because the initial investigation would have been at the grain shed, because that's where they found his boots. They found his boots behind a dirt pile near the grain shed. So that's where the investigation started. Not at his trailer, but there, because his boots were there. Right? So Jim Brenner was annoyed by this. Jim Brenner told them to get lost. Law enforcement didn't realise Jim Brenner had no right telling them to get lost because that wasn't his property. Red flag that he was annoyed at all that the police were there because his friend was missing. But what do I know? What do I know? Dear me.
Other than that, I didn't have a clue.
And nothing was found in that search. There have been a few messages we've gotten, I know you have too, from people that I want to ask you directly to hopefully clear it up. Was the grain truck searched for Dylan?
Yes, absolutely.
And nothing was found?
Multiple times.
Yeah.
Okay. We can put that one to rest. Are there any creeks, rivers, streams, any bodies of water nearby that he could possibly be in?
You guys know how it is when you buy a new Mac. It's super fast at first, and then pretty soon after it starts to slow down. That's
just Lucin Pond, but it's been went through already.
It's been searched.
Yes.
They
And
searched
nothing.
it inch by inch.
Yep.
The guy was down in there walking through the whole thing.
The other question I know we've talked on before is the two suspects that are in jail on unrelated charges. They haven't been charged in connection to Dylan's disappearance. What do we know about them and what's happening with them?
So Chase Venstra has never been called a suspect. He has not been named a suspect by law enforcement. We truly know nothing. I have asked, I can't tell you how many times, have you cleared him? Is he, like, which is it? I don't know. They won't tell me anything.
But he's in there on gun charges.
He's in there on gun charges. Brenner, he is the official suspect. There is some more stuff we know about him that we can't release that's made him that suspect.
Ooh.
But once again, it's all the stuff we had in the beginning.
Oh, that's interesting. That's interesting. Obviously, they can't say, they shouldn't say, but that is interesting.
Yeah.
It all started right there where Dylan parked his truck and Brenner was squatting everything we had in the first 3 days.
Have you requested a one-on-one meeting with the sheriff?
I don't even know how to get a hold of the sheriff. I mean, we got his email, but short of the one day I met with him and his wife, I've never spoken with him.
I've never once talked to him.
And that's the other thing. People keep saying, well, they should have a victim's advocate, right? I have no clue who that is in Box Elder. I didn't even know they had that stuff. I keep
didn't
hearing
either.
people saying to me, well, what about the victim's advocate? Well, what about him? That's never been offered to us.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow. Dear me. Regarding these campers, right, so there was some kind of storage near the grain shed that Dylan used. So I think that was a camper, but Dylan didn't live in that camper. Dylan lived in the trailer that's on his farm, which is 5 miles away. So Dylan's property is 5 miles away from the grain shed. So the grain shed, the trailer where Dylan stored his tools, right, is separate from Dylan's farm. It's just how it works out there. And this land that the grain shed was on, like, they were allowed to use it. Dylan was allowed to use it. Dylan was, he had permission to use this grain shed, to put his grain truck in and to store his tools there and to work there. And then where he actually did his planting was on his farm. So I think that makes sense. So I don't know whether this camper that he stored his tools in near the grain shed, that was actually his camper. It was owned by him, but it was just placed on someone else's land. That's possible. That's probable because all his tools was in there, but he didn't live in there. So So there we go. I think that's my understanding. Okay, so we're nearly at the end of this, so let's play this through.
Yeah, you don't know what you don't know. That's the problem.
And I don't even know what that person does. And frankly, if they're part of Box Elder County, I want nothing to do with them when it comes to Dylan's case.
Yeah, a lot of larger jurisdictions have these victim advocates that is your go-between, the liaison between the family. Even some smaller jurisdictions do. It's becoming more and more common. So you're saying just give us someone that can communicate with us so we know what is happening.
I said I was going to let it play through, but I lied. Not that I know of. Not that I know of. Yeah, not that I know of. I think there was some talk about Jim Brenner's camper burning down, but that was well before this case happened. So not related. But you know what social media is like. You know, it's like a game of telephone. You know, you hear one thing and then the next person changes it a little bit, and then the next person changes it a little bit. Right, a couple of years ago, that makes sense. Or 3 years ago. So it's well before, I don't know what the time scale was, but it's well before this case happened. So, yeah, this is the other thing that's really annoying, that Dylan didn't have a key to the gate. Now, I don't know why Dylan didn't have a key to the gate. So you had to have a key to the gate to get in to the grain shed, right? There's a gate and then the grain shed. And Dylan did not have a key, so he had to rely on Jim to give him the key when he wanted to use it. Now, Jim is a violent man with a temper, right? And although they were supposed to be friends, and Jim was known by Dylan's grandparents, right? Dylan's grandparents knew Jim Brenner. I don't know why Dylan just didn't get a key to the gate. And what Dylan would do, excuse me, if Jim wasn't around, Dylan would just take the fence down, right, to get in. So yeah, that probably annoyed Jim. So did an argument break out? You know, it wasn't like you know, a planned, you know, let's kill Dylan, you know, planned event. It was an argument that got out of hand. And Dylan ended up getting shot. That just or fell over and hit his head and died. You know, there could be something that was an argument that just got too out of hand. And that's simply, it's Occam's razor, right? That the simplest explanation is usually the one that turns out to be the truth. The one with the least permutations. And an argument breaking out, early morning, Dylan has been planting seed all night. He knows it's going to rain. He's rushing to go and put his grain in the grain truck. He finds that the gate's shut. He starts taking down the fence to rush to get his grain in before it rains. Jim kicks off. You know, Jim's woken up early. Jim kicks off. A fight breaks out. And unfortunately, Dylan loses his life. That is a very realistic scenario. But that's just my opinion of something that is simple, you know, without going down a conspiracy theory route. But then I think that more people know what happened to Dylan, what happened after that. That's the thing where I think there is some kind of silence going on between people. In my opinion, right? We don't even know whether Jim is the person responsible. He's the suspect. He's the only person that's been named a suspect in Dylan's case. But we don't know. We don't know yet how this is going to pan out. So I'm going to play this through now, 4 minutes to go. Just one thing before I let it play through. I keep dropping my ESA gear. The victims advocate, they absolutely should have had a victims advocate. Here in the UK, we call them what do we call them? Family liaison officers. That's what we call them. So everybody in the UK who has like a death of a family member due to crime or an unusual circumstance like a missing person where it's deemed a criminal investigation, you are entitled to a family liaison officer who is a police officer involved in the investigation, who is your contact. You get the mobile number. You actually get two, right? So, you know, if one's off or one's not on shift or one's busy, you can ring the other. And the fact that they've not got a victim's advocate is crazy. Like, if they wanted one, they should have got one, but they didn't even know they could get one. It's awful, really bad. Anyway, I am going to let this play through now to the end.
And at this point, it's not the communication. That boat has sailed with Box Elder. It is turn it over to the state of Utah and let somebody handle Dylan's case who's going to treat it with the attention that it deserves. Box Elder County cannot redeem themselves at this point with me. There is no way. There has been so much more than we can ever touch on in one interview. I absolutely have no faith in them as a department, as a whole department. I want nothing to do with them.
So when I ask you what's new with the case, you can say you don't know.
Yeah.
Honestly, yeah.
Yeah. We can honestly say that. I mean, I know the stuff that our FBI agent's working on. And like you said, his communication is amazing, but he is not lead. And Box Elder County, obviously, it just fell into their laps. You know, I don't know if they just want to hang on to it to say we have it, but.
Sorry, guys, I lied again. Just to address this in chat. Who owns the land that the grain shed is on? It's not Jim. Jim does not own that land, guys. A few people have said it's Jim. It's not Jim. Jim has property, but it's not there. That's not the land that Jim owns. It's somebody called Joe. The comments here. Somebody called Joe owns the land, but lets the farmers around use it to store grain trucks, to store tools. Just it's like communally, you know, that this Joe guy lets people use it. And Jim has a trailer on this land. It's not Jim's land. Jim's trailer where he lives is not on his land. His land is elsewhere. So Jim's trailer, like they say, he's squatting. He's not squatting as in he's taken ownership and without permission. He has permission to be there. He's just living there. For whatever reason, he's just living there. Why he's not living on his own land, I have no idea. I do not know the answer to that. So Jim has 10 acres in Montello. And it's that acreage, that land, that property that was searched last week. It took them all this time to search Jim's land that he owns in Montello, just outside of Montello. I don't know why he prefers to live in Lucin. I don't know the answer to that. But that's, yeah, that's the answer. Okay, now I definitely am going to let it play through.
But they're over their heads. They don't know. I mean, we get told we don't know how to pull text messages off a phone, or we don't know how to do that. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous.
Looking for royalty-free
How
music?
many adverts?
Discover Epidemic Sound. Get the safest.
I do know that two news agencies, at least in Utah, Fox 13 and ABC4, contacted the sheriff's office. Fox went to the sheriff's office hoping to get a comment about this last week, and they had no response. We'll, of course, reach out and let you know if they give us a response. In the past, it's been mainly email saying, there's been no updates.
Yeah.
So, what else do you want the public to know? What else does the public need to know about the case in general, about this specific?
Well, I know a lot of people think that Justin and I get a lot of, throwback, like, why don't you guys want people out there? Why don't you want people looking for Dylan? It's not that we don't want people looking for Dylan, but what little bit could be left out there, these YouTubers who say, oh, this is Dylan's farm, we're out here filming this, we're looking for Dylan. They are not looking for Dylan. They are looking for YouTube hits, and they could potentially destroy maybe that one little thing that was missed, that when we get a different agency to go out there could find.
We have cameras out there, and I'm thinking about pressing charges on people that are trespassing on the property.
We will
I've seen
absolutely. We're done.
some people from Montello. I have pictures of them, and I'm going to figure out a way to start pressing charges if they're coming on there. There's no reason for them to be there doing YouTube videos, and it's private property.
Yeah. I mean, it could be a speck of something that somebody steps on. That could be the smallest key. These people are ruining that, and it's infuriating. It's not because we would love to be out there every weekend tearing that desert apart, but we did that for over a month.
Yeah.
Dylan turned 20 a few weeks ago.
Yes.
I noticed you would ask people, those that were interested, to plant some seeds in his behalf. Obviously, he's a farmer. And you went to a few different places, didn't you? And spread seeds all over.
Yeah.
What was that day like?
Oh, it was quite the day.
Yeah.
When she came up with the idea, in my mind, I'm thinking, oh, they'll never sprout in time. I was just, I don't know. Wasn't a whole 100% on board, but it's been a really neat experience.
Yeah,
it was pretty neat. I've never noticed so many sunflowers in my life as I have this year.
Yeah.
And the response from the people is just amazing.
Yeah. And that's, Dylan's got a whole world out there looking for him. So that's our that's what we can do right now. We can't be on Dylan's farm disturbing stuff. We can't. So we're keeping awareness, and, we're never going to give up. We'll bring him home. So we need people to respect, the stuff that needs to be preserved.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, here's hoping that the case progresses and that you all can get some answers. And please keep us posted. I know you will. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Okay, guys. So that interview was brought to us by East Idaho News. The link to that interview is in the description box. So please do go and give them the view, and go and watch it through. If you haven't seen that already. I know some of you have seen the interview already. But they've been doing some good work on Dylan's case. They've been giving Candace and Justin their platform. When they want to do an interview, then East Idaho News is there to help them, because Dylan's actually from Idaho. Although he lives in Lucin, Utah. That's land that his grandparents bought him so he could go out there and farm, because land's too expensive in Idaho. So that's the connection with Idaho. And Justin and Candace are divorced. They have kind of their own homes. I think one of them lives in Twin Falls. One of them lives in another name with falls in it. I can't remember. But yeah, that's why East Idaho News have taken a big interest in this case. So thank you to them for bringing this interview forward. I think it was very, very interesting. A lot of stuff that we didn't know in that interview. And it makes me angry. It really does make me angry about the ineptitude of, and I feel shady saying this, but I think I've got a right to say this because I cover so many American cases. Not being an American, I'm very much an outsider looking in, but it just seems to me that the way that these kind of county sheriff's offices work is so hit and miss. Like, some of them are great, some of them are, I'm sure, do their very, very best. But then there's others that are just either stuck in the dark ages in relation to missing persons cases or criminal investigations generally. They're in the dark ages. Now, maybe that's to do with underfunding. Maybe that's just to do with lack of training for, sheriffs and their deputies. I don't know. Or, as we discussed earlier on, perhaps it's just good old-fashioned laziness. And I think it's probably a combination of all of those things. As I said earlier on, you know, we had big problems in the UK with police services. We still have problems with police services, but it focuses around underfunding. The police are dreadfully underfunded here in the UK. But what there has been in recent years is a huge amount of police training. We used to have a big problem with racism, homophobia, just, you know, police brutality, used to be police corruption. And of course, we still have rogue officers who are all of those things. We still have people who are bad at their job. We still have people who are, you know, are unscrupulous enough to take a bribe. All of those things still apply, but the huge amount of police training and awareness raising has meant that police services overall have got a whole lot better in recent years. And police forces are much more willing to work together than they ever were. So there is hope. What I'm saying is there is hope that, you know, I think what it takes is people to be aware of how many problems there are in these counties where they're not equipped. They're not equipped motivationally. They're not equipped training wise. We've seen it. We've seen it just a couple of days ago with the Kylie Rodney case. That although, you know, the officers there worked hard, the sheriffs worked hard to find Kylie. And nobody will tell me any different. They worked hard to find Kylie, but they missed her. They missed her from the most obvious place. And they led people astray. They could have found Kylie day 1 or day 2, and they didn't, due to inappropriate equipment and lack of training. And they've admitted that, right? They know that's a problem. And no, not every police service can have the expertise and the equipment that Adventures with Purpose can bring. But, you know, if it means that more outside agencies have got to be brought in and brought in sooner, then sheriff's offices, county police services have got to bring themselves out of the dark ages and admit that they need that help and seek that help. You know, they at least need to know that there are those outside agencies out there. You know, Adventures with Purpose is just one organization. You know, just what, 6 or 7 guys who have the expertise and who have the following on YouTube and get the donations that they need to buy all of that, you know, gold standard equipment. They found Kylie. If they hadn't have agreed to go there, if they didn't have the big YouTube following that they have and don't have, you know, that equipment that's been bought for them by donation money, then Kylie would still be lying 14 feet under that lake. She absolutely would still be there. And we'd still be chasing conspiracy theories, and her parents and her grandpa would have no idea where their daughter and granddaughter is. But now they do. So at the end of that interview, and this is kind of the last thing I'll say before I wrap up, when they say that they don't want YouTubers on the land and YouTubers are just going out there for YouTube hits, maybe there is that element. Maybe there is that element. But if it wasn't for YouTube and social media in general, no one would know about Dylan Rounds. The police have not done a press interview. They've not done a press conference for Dylan Rounds. If it wasn't for YouTube and TikTok and Twitter and Facebook, no one, not even locally to Dylan, would know about Dylan Rounds. So yes, there is an element of people just going there to make videos, but But social media is a force for good. In general, you know, overall, all things considered, social media is a force for good. Because what it does is it brings awareness to the people who have that expertise. YouTube spoke. Adventures with Purpose, their audience spoke. And they went. They listened and they went and they found Kylie. So there are many organizations, you know, these guys, Adventures with Purpose, focus on water recovery, vehicle recovery. But there are many brilliant organizations who have other but equivalent expertise, who law enforcement agencies that are underfunded, that don't have the expertise or the equipment, could draw on. And they need to open their minds and open their eyes to the modern world and use social media as a force for good. Yeah, EquiSearch, absolutely. EquiSearch are fantastic. They are. They're brilliant at what they do. But there are many more organizations out there. So, yeah, that's really all I've got to say on this. I've been on nearly 2 hours, so I'm going to call it a day here. As I said right at the beginning, if you came in partway through, there's going to be a live tomorrow on this channel. It's going to be on Julissa Fuentes. I don't know how to pronounce the name, sorry. But on Julissa. Adventures with Purpose are going there tomorrow to search the Avocado Lake, and I think there's some other lakes in the area where Julissa's phone last pinged in the Avocado Lake area. So I'm going to do a live. It'll be in an earlier time slot than this. So it'll be sometime in the afternoon for me. So it'll be a very early morning for you guys in America, especially those over on the West Coast. So if it's too early for you, I do apologize. You can be part of the replay crew. So what I'm going to be doing there is I'm going to be going through the press conference. I'm going to be going through some of the media that the family's been putting out. I'm going to be giving an overview of the case, and then we're going to wait to see what Adventures with Purpose finds, if anything, because they'll be there tomorrow. So there we go. All right, guys. So until tomorrow, hopefully some of you can join me, but those of you who are still in bed when I start talking, just join me as part of the replay crew. So until then, guys, have a good day or good evening, wherever you are in the world. Bye, folks.